get another appointment, so I'm her stand-in. I'm Alderman Colleen Burris, in case you don't know who I am. I also wanted to say, I know that probably many of you have already seen the mayor here today. We have many of our aldermen are here today as well. I think actually all of the aldermen are been here at one point or another. So please go up and say hello to them if you see them. I just saw Don Wilson somewhere, but there he is. So great. How it's going to work is I'm going to call up the people that are doing the report out. You have about 3 to 5 minutes. When you have about a minute left, I'm going to get closer to you, which means to wrap it up, they won't give me a gong, so we're just going to do the one finger. Well, there you go. And I was asked that I announce that this is being videotaped by ECTV and will be broadcast later, so if anyone else wants to watch it. Oh, now people are holding their hands like, I'm not reporting out, I'm on TV. It's okay, I do silly things on TV all the time, it's all right. So the first one to report out is my good friend, Steve Haggerty. Where is he? Aha, there he is, he pops up. Here you go, all you.
Okay. First of all, I want it to be known to the entire group, I volunteered to be the note taker. My group decided it'd be a good idea if the note taker was also the spokesperson for the group. All right, now I'm not sure where my technology one is.
Right. You need to use the monitor on TV.
Do I really? Do I need to use this mic?
You can walk
I
with
talk
him.
loud. Oh.
You can pull it.
Okay. All right. So this was the technology group. The challenges that this group identified to startup companies and startup technology companies is one, a funding challenge, and that funding challenge not only in terms of venture capital funding and private equity funding and things like that, but also funding for the second thing here, which was infrastructure. If you want to be a center for technology companies, there needs to be the right kind of infrastructure for those companies. It came up actually in the Office and Professional Development section about wet labs, and one reason that Skokie is successful with getting a lot of technology companies there is because they have the right types of facilities and infrastructure, which isn't as prevalent here in Evanston. So that was a real challenge that the group talked quite a bit about. And they also mentioned the contiguousness of those buildings and facilities, that it just creates sort of that ecosystem. And the ecosystem is really a lot bigger than just the buildings themselves. And so I'm going to jump down actually to this bullet right here, which is also related to the ecosystem, which is really creating a community and building a community where businesses know one another, where they have events. And that ecosystem is really growing in Chicago. You see it all the time. If you pick up Cranes or anything like that, they've had some real successes that they can point to, and it's really just mushroomed. And we're making progress here in Evanston. There is sort of a little buzz, but it's not where it needs to be for the technology sector. And so that was something that was talked about quite a bit. There was, in terms of challenges, and again, some of these challenges are also opportunities, obviously, was the potential talent shortage for technology companies. One of the real advantages here, obviously, is Northwestern University and engaging Northwestern University, and there are more and more situations going on these days where those parties are working with one another very effectively. So that was one thing. Another thing here in terms of challenge was, look, we're a small community. We're not the city of Chicago. We're not, Silicon Valley or anything like that. Perhaps we need to be focused in what kind of technology we really want to get behind. And so that was potentially a challenge there. And there was an example given of Youngstown, Ohio, where they said, our niche is going to be software. And that's what it's going to be. We're not going to try and do, biomedical and all those other things that are out there. Okay? And then there was one final thing here in terms of a challenge is someone presented the idea that there's no design experience for incubation. That people around here don't necessarily understand sort of the phases of incubation, and that there would be some benefit to understanding sort of what the status quo is and the opportunities to leverage our strengths. Okay, so those are the challenges. Colleen's probably going to walk to me really soon, so I'm going to quickly get through here. The strengths, I think, strengths real quickly, public transportation. There are some VC funds in this area. The Wildcat Fund is one. People talked about the basic research money that is spent in this area, particularly with Northwestern University. Very educated population, obviously, and building off the activities and the events around the university. And again, I think you're seeing that more and more these days. And then the last one, opportunities. The group talked about, really wanted to have a sort of an envisioning session of what we want to be, 5 years from now. What does that look like for this technology component of the business community? There was a request of an analysis, what businesses do we have? And that folks thought there's an opportunity to understand that better and then leveraging that. There's a lot of interesting businesses here in Evanston above the ground floor of retail that a lot of us don't even know about, that are doing fascinating things, and they're quite large businesses. And you'd be really surprised. You can go into some businesses here in town that are 10 people, and they're doing $50 million worth of business with 10 people because, again, the power of technology. And again, I think that just gets back to this point of how do we create a stronger community where all of these folks know one another and are helping one another, and I think that just benefits the entire community, and that was the general consensus of the group. The end.
Thank you so much. Great job. I'm looking at him. Bill Geiger, you are up. So, Bill, I was actually in this session, Healthcare and Wellness. Bill is from the McGaw YMCA.
I am.
Or the Y. I'm supposed to say it right.
YMCA. There are two great Ys in Evanston, the YM and the YW. First, I want to thank the city and city council and mayor for hosting this forum. I think it's terrific. And to all of you who are here and spent the morning, I think that's great as well. We focused on some goals and priorities, and I'm going to start with the second one here, which is the idea that we would create a compelling and inspiring vision or goal, larger goal for Evanston around health and well-being, and then make sure that we communicate that out in messaging and make sure that that inspires our community to be the healthiest, the most well-being focused population in the state or in the region or in the country. Kind of set that, I think Steve mentioned having a goal and perhaps even an audacious goal with respect to health and wellness. So we started at this very high visioning area, but we also got very, very practical. So one of our key priority goals and priorities was to address licensing and zoning issues such that they support the smaller practitioners, smaller businesses, and promote growth. We felt that was something that we could focus on that was very tangible, would have a great deal of impact, and really address on an immediate basis some of the health and well-being needs of the community. Down at the bottom, we like the idea that we were all getting together. While some of us knew each other, others were new to the group, so to speak. So the idea of having a larger meeting of the health and well-being community, if you will, that would be an online forum, so use some technology to keep us connected and to build those relationships, but also face-to-face. We talked a great deal about training and providing opportunities for our respective health and well-being folks in town to get the training and staying current with trends in this area. But also what came out very strongly was this idea of mentoring. The comment was made, Colleen, I think it was yours, that at the Youth Jobs Center, the providing of mentoring for young folks as they seek to move into the world of work, incredibly powerful. And is an idea which, if we could promote that throughout throughout the community of those who provide health and well-being programs and services could be very, very powerful. There's a need to identify who is in this health and well-being community. While some of us knew each other in the group, others didn't, and we thought there was an opportunity to really go out and inventory, if you will, or catalog and pull these folks together, because there are a bunch of folks in the community doing great work, some big, some small, some teeny. We had a new business category, not small business, but teeny business, and how important they are in our community. And it's not starred, but I have the mic, so I'm going to make my pitch for one of the goals and priorities. I think all of this needs to be viewed through the lens of access and equity. What we see throughout our community and certainly throughout the country is that health and well-being is greatly impacted by access and equity, defined by race, defined by ethnicity, defined by socioeconomic status. And I think certainly in Evanston we want to view health and well-being with a very clear lens of looking for health disparity in our community and being sure that we resource and address health and well-being throughout. Is there anyone in my group who would like to either correct what I've said or add to what I've said? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Thumbs up.
Okay.
Great job.
Thank you.
Good job, Bill.
Actually, I could, ever so briefly,
Yes.
that the zoning thing is actually a current thing that's going on right now with bodywork and massage licensing zoning.
Great.
We can use support with that.
Thank you. Next up, arts and entertainment venues. Ed, from the Symphony.
Those are our sheets.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity to gather here where we have the finest minds in the state of Illinois. Give yourselves a big round of applause. And particularly in the arts and entertainment forum, we identified that one of the most important things that came out right in the beginning was passion. And what we focused on then is to try and get the 3 burning issues that we need to address in the first 6 to 9 months if we want to get this thing moving. Because in any entity, you need to create momentum. Momentum comes from people. It's the people energy we got to mobilize. And so we started by listing a whole laundry list of issues. And it was very interesting because we had a multidisciplinary audience. There were architects, there were business people, there were musicians, and I mean, how low can you go? I'm sorry, to identify the issues. And it was great to hear what people thought. And first of all, there are structures, there are initiatives, but like in any process where you are dealing with momentum and energy, you need to tap the steering wheel. You need to focus, focus, focus. We all have limited resources, we all have limited time. So the first thing we looked at is a multidisciplinary team, a network that has structure, that's committed, and that's open to all who wish to attend. Come along, and it's a forum. So let me just see there. It's including youth. How do we get all these iPod-carrying kids into Pickstaiger to listen to the Evanston Symphony Orchestra? We've got to start thinking outside the box. Then, if you want to create momentum and focus, you need to establish a common goal. And here we specifically mentioned a short-term strategy. And I know that Jack here was very unhappy because I didn't allow him to put his long-term strategy on for the historic perspective. That came up in the other meeting. But in any case, so what we need here is to create a vision and a mission. not just for a bunch of arts people. This is a business. And therefore, we need to have objectives, measurable metrics, and we need to mobilize the community. And they need to see results. Otherwise, we're not going to fill Pixtager for the Evanston Symphony, etc., etc. And then community branding. A match between business, artists, and residents. Very important. Everybody brings some expertise to the party, and we need to mobilize all that energy. Because if we don't mobilize all that energy, we're going to have a structure, and you know what happens with the structure and another committee? It builds in inertia in the system. And we've got to get the inertia out. We've got to get the momentum going. I heard some comments in an earlier speaker saying, Skokie have done something, they've created, etc., etc. That's what we've got to do. And that's from the arts and entertainment perspective. We've got to do that by enhancing the energy of a limited resource, people's time. Because unless we have the passion, the pie is only so big, and the people are going to go and eat from somewhere else. So we need to enhance our energy, focus, get people, and that means we have got to be like missionaries out there to drive this, because it only comes from people energy. Any questions? Gone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What a great accent. I love it. The baby boomer market. Joel. There you are. There you go.
Hi. Boy, an impressive group to follow. So they nominated me because I'm not a baby boomer, apparently, to talk about the baby boomer group. But I'm excited because my professional work is focused on serving and engaging baby boomers. So it's really exciting that this is one of the themes. And I think I want to point out real quickly, it's interesting with the other groupings, there's tie-ins, health and wellness, arts and entertainment, technology. This all applies to how you better serve and engage the older adult market. And when we talk about baby boomers, we're generally talking about the 50-plus market. It's boomers and seniors, and we need to engage them both. So what we talked about in our group is how do we turn Evanston, how do we transform Evanston into a hub for serving and engaging the older adult market and really leveraging the thought leadership that exists here and could exist here to turn it from just a the problems of serving seniors, into opportunities to bring talent and leverage and apply wisdom, experience, components into this, back into this community. So one thing we looked at is a model that Sarasota, Florida has instituted called the Institute for the Ages. And they decided, they looked around and saw their population aging, and they decided to leverage that asset. We believe here in Evanston we can do the same. We have tremendous talent here over the age of 50 and under. We need to combine and collaborate with the organizations we have here, like all the businesses, like Northwestern, like the organizations like North Shore Village that are working. So we talked about creating a kind of institute here in Evanston, based in Evanston, and having that be an engine of growth. The other piece we talked about, there was really four. The second one was creating opportunities for meaningful engagement for people over the age of 50, and that's a way of leveraging the expertise that's here, the faith-based community that's here, that draws people in and appeals to their passion and their ability to give back. We need to tap into that. And so there's some interesting ways we discussed strategies for there. One of the big challenges that has to be addressed, issue of transportation for people getting around and connecting to the different businesses. So housing, personal transportation. We talked about helping people get to appointments, medical appointments, other types of things. We need an infrastructure and a support system for that. And then the fourth angle that we looked at is this idea of multi-generational systems. And we talked about services like daycare, and mentoring and connecting the dots between the older adults and the youth and the people that have kids that need to be cared for, kids that need to be developed. So those were our 4 major themes. Again, the idea of a thought leadership center right here in Evanston that could serve Chicago, serve the North Shore, could serve the broader country and even globally. The second, opportunities for meaningful engagement. The third, personal transportation, addressing that issue. And the fourth, multi-generational service opportunities. So thank you so much.
I love my new iPad, too. Water-related industries, Sherry Ann. Ah.
So after 4 dynamic speakers, you get the economist. Evanston commenced water treatment and sales in 1874. Today, we sell at the second lowest rate of $2.34 per 1,000 gallons. That's really important, actually, because Evanston plans to benefit from raising its rate, from Chicago raising its rate, because Chicago is going to raise its rate to $3.02 by 2014. Look at the difference in those numbers. $2.34 is what we're charging, $3.02. We're talking pennies here. We're not talking big amounts of money. And so this is kind of a scary prospect, talking about water, because we could put in more capacity, we could put in more piping, we could sell contracts to other areas, and someone up the shore could come in and undercut us and we'd be out. So we have to be very careful as we go forward. As a reference point, though, Skokie sells water. Are they reselling our water because we sell to Skokie? They sell it at $4.15. So, there is some room to raise our prices. But as a part of the current plan underway, currently to sell, my notes go all over the place. We plan to sell to communities in Lake County. It seems that by federal decree, some of the counties in Lake Counties have just gotten allocations where they can switch from well water to our lake water. And we have a little bit of excess capacity right now. And we also have a pending engineering study. We're out to bid for the engineering study for a cost to be, for figuring out how to do the piping, who would pay for it, how to do the increased capacity, whether we need to do mini bonds and all that. Okay, so that's enough of the history. Sorry, now the economist will step aside. So what we did in our group is we looked at the current top users. And we found that really what's involved going forward is we need some marketing and some help. And probably some of the guys that were sitting here during the first session probably should have been in with us, because we need to allow firms to leverage the positive image of Evanston water. I mean, we've got great water here, right? You saw the banner outside. We got fab water. And we need to let firms know that they can leverage that. I mean, think about Coca-Cola bottling that's abandoning Atlanta because of the lack of water. They should be with us. Plus, that was scarcity of water. We also looked at offering different incentives for, now hold on, because I know all of us who are green and who've been cutting back our personal consumption are not going to be happy with this. But we looked at offering incentives for greater water usage. What if you are a large user? What if we are selling to you? What if you don't fit into our footprint here in Evanston, but we pipe it to you? Is there something that can be done there? And finally, we thought we should be conversing with the biotech firms coming out of NU. So this ties in with some of the others in the incubators and all. Because the biotech firms not only could purchase our water, but they could also help fill in our Evanston footprint if they stayed here. So, in a nutshell, we didn't have really any solutions that were new. And I'm sorry about that. But they did succeed in educating a group of us in the room about what we're looking at, and what we need to look at in the future with respect to our water, and how to make revenue from the water that we have in this wonderful natural resource. And now the economist will sit down.
Workforce training programs. Emmanuel? Right here. Oh, right in front of me. I'm looking around the room. Here you are. All you.
Well, good afternoon. Well, the workforce development session was a great session. What was clear during that session is that we did not have enough time. So I expect to use all the time that we didn't have now. I'm just kidding.
I have a book.
Just kidding. And, I'm happy to be standing here because I'm not going after the guy from the symphony who had that great accent. But I do have to go after the economist. The workforce development group, what we discussed I found very interesting because we seem to have settled in on the workforce age group of between 18 and 25. We had a group of people who were wonderful people who were empathetic towards that particular group and had some particular concerns about where we're going with that group of people and how do we get there. I'm going to try to take a look at this. I'm wearing some new contact lenses today. If you guys ever heard, there are contact lenses that has bifocals in them. And so that's for people who are both nearsighted and farsighted. So therefore, I can't see near or far. But anyway, one of the things that we focused on, we had an individual there from St. Francis Hospital and talking about, her work with the Youth Job Center of Evanston, which I know is a wonderful group, and the idea of working with young people early and working with the high school to develop their interests and their skills early on. One of our participants went just a little bit further in the idea of mentoring, and that we should start early as middle school. And there's this passion out there, and I hear this everywhere I go, get them a trade. Trade. Either it could be culinary, it could be different level of skills throughout the genre of where industry is. But I think the main focus that we had is simply aligning the level of skills with the actual job opportunities and working with industries and companies, both large, medium, and small, to actually do so. But as I was able to give my little 2 cents in there, and I told people, I said, well, before I transferred to Evanston Township High School, I went to Dunbar Vocational High School. And that high school was a selective enrollment school. And so was every vocational school there was. And it wasn't, the fact is that when we look at skill set, we need to look at aptitude. It's a different type of testing and actually a matrix that we began to need to look at to see where the passion and actually skill set is. And my reasoning for wanting to be part of this particular group is that I'm sitting down with my business partners, Siemens and Arrow, and I asked them, none of their technicians, if you will, have college degrees. They're trained by the company or they're trained by some community college. I said, what's the starting pay? He said $43,000. And so that's my interest in looking at, where things are. How much does it, what do you need to become an actual gamer? But as we went on, we looked at what infrastructure that we have available in Evanston and throughout the regional community to do so. Mayor Tisdall brought up an issue or challenge that we had, and that is transportation. And that is that it takes 2 hours to get out to Oakton Community College, where most of the infrastructure actually exists for those things. She's currently, if you don't mind me telling, in conversation with the president of Oakton Community College to bring some of those resources to Evanston Township so those things can be taught there. And so those things become very important, real, tangible things that are actually helpful. But I did bring up something in our session that I felt that was very important. Either it is vocational or voc tech. The individuals that are involved, it may not be college, but post-secondary is post-secondary. If you're going to be a journeyman electrician, that's just about the same hours that a person would use to get their master's. And so the idea being is that, but it still all boils down to 3 or 4 things. It's education, 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 education. and that's the post-secondary opportunities, but we must do all we can to open up opportunities, mentor, give efficient assessment and aptitude assessments to work with these young people to build the workforce that we need to grow our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, you're up. Michael's going to talk about office and professional services, and I believe your company is Inclusion Solutions. Ah, so you work with Pat Hughes.
I do.
Oh, let me give you a big hug.
Oh, I love this.
There you go.
I love this. How can I keep going now?
You know,
I'm going to tell a very quick story. When I first was talking to Inclusion Solutions to Pat, I wanted to meet people who knew Pat, and I met a gentleman named Peter Loban. I don't think he's here, and I told Peter, I'd like to meet everyone who knows Pat Hughes to get a better sense of what he's like, and he said it'll take you 10 years. My job is to distill our really good conversation into 3 points. So point 1 was help us make our strengths productive, I think is a good way to put it. There were many conversations starting this morning. If I can use names, John O'Donnell spoke about a wave where there's a desire to locate businesses near public transportation nodes. And driving around Evanston, we can see construction going on as we speak of the CTA or the Metro lines and so on. We have a tremendous asset in Evanston. We have a lakefront, beautiful property. We have great talent in the community. We have public transportation. We have office space. So the conversation revolved around how can we leverage these assets, which are unique to Evanston, and make them as productive as possible as we build real estate and locate ourselves or locate buildings for entrepreneurs. The second comment was, if I can attribute this to Steve Haggerty, it was be an ambassador. Steve related a great story about how when he graduated from college and for many years afterwards, he was asked by the school to go back to the school and talk about his career, his story being the key word, as I was told, and relate to the students in the school, how they can progress through life, what their future can be. Steve's proposal is that the business community of Evanston do exactly the same, so that we can speak as ambassadors for those who want to or are thinking about staying here, as I did. I went to Northwestern and stayed in Evanston, or who want to work here, who are developing companies, or who have questions about locations of real estate and so on. Tell them our story. They are the customer, and we want them to come to us, so we go to them. It's a wonderful idea. So be an ambassador. The third idea that came up in our conversation was to keep us together, keep this conversation going, and especially to Mayor Tisdall and to Paul and to Wally. I don't know everyone here. There was a great deal of gratitude that this event was occurring. You've already heard it from this gentleman. A great deal of gratitude. The idea was to continue the conversation in the specific case we were talking about. I have to look at the note. With landlords, real estate, technology, and business. So the idea was to keep the constituency together so that the conversation can continue and so that we can continue to feed each other ideas. So it was make strengths productive, be an ambassador, and please keep this conversation going. We're grateful to you for having done this. Thank you.
Gina, you're up. Oh, there she is. I'm like, I knew she was over there somewhere. Gina will be talking about the retail sector. Gina presents to the Economic Development Committee often, so this should be easy for you.
No, it's not. I need this off. I'm going to follow our sheet. The first thing we talked about was bringing retail, real estate agents, brokers, and the merchants districts and the city staff together. Currently, and a lot of people don't know this, the merchant districts meet every month. It's organized by the Economic Development Department, and interested parties, like such as myself, come to these meetings. We get to hear what the other merchants what all the merchant districts are doing, and we get to pool resources sometimes. If everyone is trying to get new planters or new signage or Christmas decorations, they can go and use a common vendor, etc. But there's also ideas shared and new ideas and studies sometimes that one individual district can do. Well, that could benefit another district. So the idea was to expand those monthly meetings, invite other parties that might be interested in hearing that information and sharing information. For example, yesterday I heard about all the development happening to redo Church Street and Davis Street. Well, a real estate broker would really, it would be nice for them to know that these streets are going to be revitalized in terms of them soliciting new businesses to come to that street. So it's just taking what already exists and expanding it to include the real estate communities and other interested parties. Number 2 is zoning and parking. One is realities of zoning and parking, and then the perceptions. There's a perception that zoning is very restrictive and that it takes a long time to work with the city to get permits, and this is not really true. So how do you counter that misperception? And then there's parking issues. Even though there are garages and a lot to accommodate increased parking, there's still perceptions that it's hard to park, and people still are trained to want to park right in front of their businesses. And there was also a really good idea about doing a program so that we really get businesses to get their employees not to park right by the businesses and give them places where they can park so that the customers can park closer to the retail businesses. And we talked about perhaps having a trolley that goes around the city. This ties into also as people are getting older, this would be an amenity, but it would also help people get from parking structures to the different retail districts. And there was talk about just there should be study done for all the different merchant districts to really identify what is the parking available for those districts, so that once you really have a map of what the viable parking is, then you can go and say, well, employees should go park over here and merchants should park and then the customers park somewhere else. So like kind of an inventory of what the parking options are, not just downtown, but in all the merchant districts. And last, we talked about collaboration and communication, and this goes from businesses to city, potential businesses with the city, customers to the business districts. There's just a lack of communication and collaboration between the different entities of what's going on. And we gave some examples of just trying to have events that are together. The different districts have different sidewalk sales. That was my example. But also just to communicate and collaborate with other organizations that know more about how to do this. There is a national Main Street program that has a model of how to redevelop and revitalize your business district. And so there's people that have done this, and you don't have a group of people coming together and just coming up with all these different ideas that are important to them individually, but something like this would help people focus their efforts in revitalizing their business district. So it's collaboration. And that's our group.
Thanks, Gina. The next is Applied Skilled Industries. Helen. Thank you.
I think ours may have been the smallest group. There were 6 people in the room, and I think that tells the story of how this community is not fully aware of the applied industry that we do have in town. There is manufacturing in Evanston. There is manufacturing in Evanston. There could be more, particularly today's kind of manufacturing, which is high-tech, innovative, value-added. I spent 15 years in the world of manufacturing and learned a lot about what it can mean, what it does truly still mean to the economy of this nation and our local communities. I believe this is still true. Every job in manufacturing supports at least 3 jobs in other sectors of the economy. That alone is a good reason to nurture and support the manufacturing we do have and think about what we can do. There are lots of common themes going around today: innovation in the arts, innovation in retail, innovation in technology, manufacturing, somebody's got to make the stuff. Somebody's going to make the stuff that all these ideas generate. So I would love to see it higher on the city's economic development agenda. Our session did not produce a lot of new ideas. It was kind of deja vu. I heard manufacturers talk about, I can't hire locally. I heard a startup business saying, I can't find venture capital. I need a mentor. I need a consultant. These are not new ideas, as I said. They've been around a long time. I think what we need to do is apply the will of our community leadership to this sector of the economy. It can be a significant factor in Evanston, and that's what I would hope we could get out of this session today. I think one of the things we talked about, there's a need for messaging around what manufacturing is nowadays. It's not your grandfather's or even your father's kind of manufacturing. It is high skill, high wage, and kids can come out of a fine high school like Evanston Township and go to work in industry or construction trades. Everything I heard when I was in manufacturing from our clients who were small, family-owned, primarily manufacturing companies, send me someone who can read, write, compute, think, and work in teams, and I'll see that they get the training they need to work in my company. So it blends very well with what Emmanuel said about the workforce arena as well. So I think there's a lot we can do. We have to apply the will to it and make it as important as the other strategies that we're talking about today. Thank you.
And last, but definitely not least, education and not-for-profit market, Cass, who always has a great smile on her face, no matter what.
Hi, I'm Cass Wolf from Infant Welfare Society of Evanston, and you stole my line last, but certainly not least. Nonprofits play a huge role in Evanston and have for a very long time, and so we talked a number of things. I have to look behind me because that's where the list is, and being last, I have kind of forgotten.
Cass, you can take the mic with you.
Well, that's right. Thank you.
Otherwise, it won't record on TV.
Okay. I'm going to start in the global sense of what we were talking about today, that nonprofits, there are so many, we don't all even know each other. And so we are looking towards deeper coordination of nonprofit organizations. We have some that are very large, and we have those micros or those mini nonprofits as well. Some of them are just one or two people. But thinking about how can we coordinate our efforts. Nonprofits are actually a huge employer in Evanston, and I'm not simply talking about the hospitals, and Northwestern, although those are certainly the largest nonprofits. But, for example, my organization has 47 employees, which is quite a large number for our community. And combining all of those all of the nonprofits, I think that part of the coordination is the inventory and the understanding of who we are. So in our deeper coordination, we talked about getting to know each other and being able to form some tighter identity. We also talked about incubator spaces, using the model that's been used here in Evanston for for-profits. There are a lot of one-person, two-person nonprofit organizations. So is there some combined space and combined use of space, the ability to share that space and to incubate services? Along with that line, it really is focused on the two things together. Are there shared services between nonprofits? Are there shared resources, shared space? All of those kinds of things. Shared calendars was even another part of our coordination and incubation of services. And the third point, which was actually first on here, is that the city, encouraging the city to invest and partner with nonprofits. Using the example a couple of years ago, the City of Evanston hiring a youth coordinator. We're instead considering working with one of the fabulous nonprofit youth organizations in the community to support the work that needed done in that arena. Was there anything else? Team, group? No? Okay. Thank you.
Before we wrap up and turn it back over to Nancy, I wanted to ask if Alderman Rainey or Alderman Nguyen or Alderman Wilson or the mayor have anything that they'd like to share or say. No? They're shaking their head at me.
It was a wonderful event, and it seems that the most important thing is for us to make sure that everybody knows how great we are at helping people. And if you ask, you're going to get help.
Here, here. Alderman Nguyen or Alderman Wilson? So you're all no.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's been a great session. I've learned a lot, and I want everybody to remember we are very, very committed to supporting your businesses and supporting the economic health of the city. So if there's things we can do to help, let us know, because we're very interested in doing it.
Alder-
I would say that we should just continue to keep having these sessions. The first one I went to, we could have talked the entire morning, and it didn't really go. So I thank everyone for coming, and just keep coming back.
Yeah, I think other alderman had to leave. If I missed somebody, please, it's not on purpose. Alderman Grover was, obviously was here and had to leave. So, Mayor, do you have anything to say?
I'd echo what Alderman Nguyen said. I think everybody wanted another session, and I'm sure the Economic Development Committee will do a fabulous job of taking that into consideration.
Great. And I have one school board member here, Gretchen Livingston, and wanted to say welcome and hello to her. And Nancy, and thanks to Wally Bobkowitz, our city manager, and all the economic development staff who are just outstanding, as you probably all know in the community already. But here you go, Nancy.
Okay, so I've got, looks like a minute and a half to wrap things up. And I'm actually very impressed that we finished almost exactly on time because, like everyone else, I think our sessions, people just wanted to keep talking. There's a lot of ideas and there's a lot of people that want to be involved in this stuff, and we're really excited about that because I just want to reinforce what Alderman Grover had said earlier is this takes a team, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot we can do, and we appreciate you being here today. We are going to synthesize and bring all this information together and make sure that everyone gets the comprehensive notes of what was talked about today. We also want to make sure that those yellow cards, yes, please, please, please. If you have thoughts on those, or if you want to be more involved with one of these discussion points or economic development in general, please fill out the cards and drop them off on your way out. We want to keep this momentum going, so we have your information. Expect to hear from us in the very short term, and we want to keep moving these ideas forward. And if you have the time and the energy, we know you guys all have a lot going on, but we need your help to move this stuff forward. So if you want to volunteer, the great way to do that is on those yellow cards. So again, thank you all so very much for coming today. We will be in touch, and we are looking forward to working with all of you to move our economic development initiatives, strategies, opportunities forward. Thanks again.
Bill's writing. They know where you are. I know, I was saying it, I'm like, who was it, Ben?
Great job.
Thank you.
You did a very